All right, y'all, welcome to the show here for this Thursday, July, or not, well, it was July last month, August 27th, 2026, high atop, of course, a still warm Jacksonville, Florida, not terribly hot, but warm Jacksonville, Florida. Again, this is August 27th, 2026. Week 0 is less than 48 hours away. Getting really close to the first game, the first major FBS game of the year. Yes, there's other games that are on tonight, if you will, for other divisions of college football, but Division 1 should be back in less than 48 hours or so. So very excited for that. Of course, we already did our preview and prediction for the UNC-TCU game. More a little bit about that later on in the show when we have more added thoughts on Week 0. We have NC State UVA. We have not done them yet so far. We haven't picked that game yet. We'll do that here in a little bit. But we have not done yet since, as we've sort of gone through the preseason and gone through fall camp, have yet to do our college football playoff picks yet. We haven't done them yet. We have 0 college football picks from me. Yeah, I know everyone else has done theirs. If some folks already done 2 of them, which is kind of insane a little bit, but, buy the ticket, take the ride. So we are doing ours. We're not changing these at all here. This is our picks that we are doing that we're not changing at all. So what we're doing is what we're doing. We can't go back and change them. Yes, there's certain personalities out there. Again, some of which you've already done 2 picks that claim, oh, you can change these whenever you want to. And that's true. But this is our show. This is our rules. So we're doing our college football playoff picks. For, I believe, the first time ever. We haven't done them at all. Usually I've kind of stayed away from doing these, but I figured, well, may as well do them this year. May as well join the fan club, if you will, or join the, I wouldn't call it a fan club, I guess, or like the movement, if you will, of doing these picks. So we'll be doing these year after game of the show. If you're new here, first of all, welcome into the show. We do this show twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, typically around this time of the year, around this time of the year, these shows get pretty long, so just note that. But also, we typically do these shows around this time in the afternoon, but albeit the times can change. We can do these earlier in the day or later in the day, whenever our schedule can work out. We do this show Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also have our podcast feed, so be sure to subscribe over there. Of course, we do this live on YouTube twice a week. So if you're listening to this live or on the replay later, subscribe to the channel. Again, we cover college football 247, 365. Not really 365 days a year, but typically we do. But anyway, subscribe to the channel. That's all we're asking for, is to have you subscribe to the channel, like the streams, like the videos, and follow us on the socials as well. Social media platforms, X and on Instagram. Instagram page, not as active, but have on good authority. We're posting more stuff over there as time goes on. So just be on the lookout for that whenever we start doing that more often. So just, again, be sure to subscribe over there. And also be sure you are subscribed to the podcast feed. That's where you can only get the extra pods when we do them. I think we're doing one tomorrow. Have it on good authority, but I won't really necessarily promise that we're doing one tomorrow, but we'll see. But you can at least assume we'll do something tomorrow. Depends on what the schedule works out. But typically we'll do these extra pods, if you will, not necessarily related to college football all the time. It's, other things we like to talk about, whether it's Marvel news, Star Wars news, those other fandoms I'm part of. So originally this show was kind of combining all of this into college, along with college football, into one show, but didn't realize, well, it wasn't really a good idea to do that. It's kind of weird, if you will, having too many things in one show. So we still talk about those things. Those are now relegated to the extra pod. Okay, so housekeeping out of the way. Another thing too, I'll mention before we continue on. Debating a little bit, should we do a reaction? Because we did these last year where we did either pre-recorded or live streams, just sort of recapping what we saw during the College Bowl Saturday. Debating on that, not totally sure. I don't hold me to the fire on that, but leaning towards we may go live or do a pre-recorded quick reaction, an individual clip of us reacting to both the UVA NC State game and also the TCU UNC. So possibility there. Not sure. We're still, debating internally what we're going to do over there. Okay, enough of the housekeeping stuff. Let's get into it. College football playoff picks. So again, like I mentioned at the top, I typically have stayed away from doing these. I don't typically like doing these predictions because it's early in the year. A lot of data. Yes, you have fall camp intel from stuff in the spring, but I figured since everyone else is doing it, and some individuals, and in particular one individual, has already done 2 of these already. And yes, there's no rules saying you can't do multiple of these, but on our show, when we're doing it, it's final. We cannot change it. So this is it. So no more changes now. We can't go back and change anything about these picks. These are going to stay the same. Hopefully I understood the format of the playoff. I think I kind of do. So if there's anything wrong here with the way the teams are seated, or some of you in the comments say, oh, that's not the way I'll see those teams, or, oh, you did this incorrect. I don't really give a shit. So you guys can go and complain and cry and scream and protest and whatnot. I don't care. This is going to be finalized. I'm not changing any of this stuff. I'm not doing a 2.0 or whatever other folks in the podcast field are doing. So this is finalized. We're not changing any of this stuff. So let me go ahead and get the graphic pulled up. This is a wonderful little graphic. It took me a little bit to make this a little bit. Obviously, we've used different resources and whatnot, but I will just say very, very hard to not only find and or make a actual playoff graphic. It's not very easy. It's very time consuming. So hopefully this turned out well enough for all of you. Now, of course, for those of you on Spotify, you obviously can't see this, so we'll have to describe it to you. So I guess you have to use your imagination, but eventually we will post this graphic onto the social media platforms. So we will do that after the show is over. So let me go ahead and get this pulled up here real quick. And for those of you who are hearing the wind here on the microphone on YouTube and maybe on Spotify, I have my little fan here blowing cooler air on because, again, it is hot here in Florida. So apologies if you're hearing that, but oh well. All right, here we go. Move the graphic in here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Again, on Spotify, you guys cannot hear this. It's you don't know what you're missing out. So again, that's why I recommend you guys go on YouTube and actually, maybe actually watch this if you can. But anyway, here's the playoff pick. So the seeds that do have the let me see here. Did I do something wrong here? Maybe I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, there might be an issue here with the way the graphics, when I transferred this through AI and kind of did the whole thing. Maybe a little bit of mistake here. Actually, is this correct? Is this actually correct here? The way this graphic is made, because it has multiple. Yeah, so if you're looking at the graphic here, just ignore some of the other bells and whistles here. Some of these things should not really be on here, as far as I'm concerned. So just kind of ignore that a little bit. My mistake on that. I thought this would have came out a little bit easier. So actually, let me go ahead and remove that real quick. Let me do this real quick. If you're listening on Spotify, just ignore the last few minutes here. I thought this would have turned out a lot better, but I think what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So yeah, what we did here with that graphic, we put it through AI just to make it look a little more cleaner and nicer. But unfortunately, the AI didn't realize that the way the college football playoff is working, it doesn't work the way I just showed you. That looked a little confusing. So apologies for that. So that's not the graphic we're going to use. So let me go ahead and pull this up, the one that I actually filled out earlier, that may make a little bit more sense. Again, apologies for that on YouTube. It is what it is. And look, I'm not a graphics artist specialist. I don't have a degree in that stuff. My degree was in public relations in the field of communication. So yeah, I'm not a graphics expert, not an artist, not a fine arts major, anything like that. So change of plans here. So we're going to do this instead. You can pull this up real quick. Okay, I think this is probably a lot better. All right. So, yeah, that graphic that we originally showed did not go over well, but here, this is what I was wanting. Okay, so the top 4 seeds for the playoff this year. Again, just ignore that graphic earlier if you're on YouTube. Again, stupid AI didn't understand what we were trying to do here. So anyway, here's what I wanted to have. So for the playoff, the teams that I have listed as the top 4 seeds. Okay, we'll go through 1 through 12 here. Get it from Spotify. You're gonna have to listen along here. So number 1, we had the Georgia Bulldogs. Of course, I had them winning the SEC. We had Oregon winning the Big Ten. We have Notre Dame, who probably finished undefeated, more likely. They're at number 3. So have Georgia number 1, Oregon number 2, Notre Dame at 3, Ohio State at 4. So that's our top 4 seeds there in the playoffs. They get the first round buys. Again, the AI, when I put this through the AI to create the graphic, it didn't understand that for some reason, but it's the AI and whatnot. Wonderful that it does that, but this graphic's probably a little bit easier to follow here. So that's top 4 seeds. Again, just to make sure you folks on Spotify can understand here. It's Georgia number 1, Oregon number 2, Notre Dame 3, Ohio State 4. Now, for the teams after that, okay, so we're going to go all the way from 5 all the way to 12. So at 5, we have Miami, 6, Texas, 7, Indiana, 8, Alabama, 9, Oklahoma, 10, Texas Tech, 11, Penn State, and then number 12, UNLV. Now, UNLV, of course, has to be the G5 teams that they're in. Miami won the ACC, but because of the ACC's perception and whatnot, and the way the playoff obviously views the ACC and the perception they're giving off, they're not going to get a top 4 seed. I feel very confident in that. Notre Dame, I think, will, and also based on the new rule changes, they will get a top 4 seed, but Miami will not, even though they won their conference champ. But again, because of the rule changes they've had over the years, it's not a guarantee anymore. Ohio State, only having 1 loss to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, they shouldn't move that far. But then there's Penn State. Everyone else on here probably makes sense, right? UNLV, obviously G5 team. Miami, Oklahoma, Alabama, Indiana, Texas Tech, Texas. All of that probably makes sense, right? For most people, that probably makes sense. Now, Penn State. Yes, their schedule is easy. And yes, there's been a lot of folks who are pumping the brakes a lot and saying, hey, let's not get too excited about Penn State. Yes, the schedule plays a role here, but I have a lot of faith in Matt Campbell. I have a lot of faith in the players he's bringing in from Iowa State. This could be a playoff team, barely a playoff team. Yes, there's other teams you could easily consider on here, right? Definitely, certainly several teams from the SEC would qualify probably here. And also Clemson could probably qualify here, and other teams, obviously. But I just feel like the folks over at the College Football Playoff Committee, if it really comes down to it, the Big Ten versus like an ACC or another Big 12 team, if there's no other SEC teams that would qualify for a spot here, especially if they have 3 losses, I think Penn State with 2 losses, and given those losses are competitive, yes, the non-conference schedule is complete garbage, and it is garbage. But again, the Big Ten sticker holds a lot of weight. The SEC sticker holds a whole lot of weight. So I think Penn State will be in. A lot of folks will disagree on that. A lot of folks will probably yell and scream about that. It's just the way I see it. So I have Penn State there at number 11. So the matchups here for the first round, Bama and Oklahoma. We saw that last year, and according to my picks here, we'll see it again. UNLV Miami is interesting, right? Dan Mullen versus Miami. G5 representative there going. I believe this will be them going to Coral Gables. So congratulations on that. I would assume Miami would win that game. I'll assume. Then on the other side here, we have Indiana, Texas Tech. Fascinating matchup there. Fascinating there with Joey McGuire, Kirk Scianetti, Coach Sig. 2 teams, 2 programs that are not too unsimilar to each other. They're more in ways similar in terms of the fan base outreach and the sort of folks making them the villains of college ball. So that's kind of ironic. They have Texas and Penn State there towards the bottom there, the 6 and 11 matchup. Again, fascinating matchup there. Arch and all of them going, or at least hosting Penn State. Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell, of course, having a lot of history with Texas, playing them and beating them, I believe. Actually beating Sark, I believe, in his first year when they were still in the Big 12. So that's the first round matchup. So the way I have this going, I have the first round results. I have Bama beating Oklahoma, Miami beating UNLV, Indiana beating Texas Tech, and then Texas beating Penn State. Moving on to the second round, if you will. So in the second round, we have Oregon, Indiana, rematch from last year's semifinal. Texas Notre Dame, classic helmet matchup and classic uniform matchup, of course, and the two uh, biggest and obviously most prominent programs in the sport. They're beating in the second round. Then you have Ohio State, Miami, matchup of the rematch of last year's. Was it the second round game too? So that's kind of ironic as well that they're facing each other again. And then of course Georgia, Bama there in the second round. I believe that would be a rematch from the regular season. A lot of rematches here, as you can tell. So out of those games heading into the semifinals, I have Georgia beating Alabama. So this would mean, yes, Keelan Russell and them would go against Georgia again. For the second time, I have Georgia beating them. I have Ohio State losing to Miami again. I know a lot of folks in Columbus are probably going to be like, man, you must really hate Ohio State. I don't hate Ohio State. Ryan Day, I've defended him, staunchly defended him. I just feel like Ohio State, with a lot of issues on the defensive line and the line of scrimmage in general, that's going to be something that's going to be really hard to overcome. And especially playing against Miami, who at this point in the season, even if things go off, a little rocky and stuff at the beginning, they could get better over the year, right? There's no rule saying you can't. So I would assume that Miami's lines of scrimmage going to be a lot better than Ohio State's. Not to mention the quarterback, wide receiver combo there with Darian Minsett and the guy he brought over from Duke, along with DeCorian Moore being back for his second year. Or that's the guy who is at Oregon. Never mind. That's I think a different player. But anyway, I mean, you guys get what I'm saying here. I just feel like the lines of scrimmage here in this hypothetical matchup would lean towards Miami. So I have Miami and Georgia beating each other in the semifinals on one side. On the other side, Texas and Notre Dame. I have Texas beating Notre Dame. I just have a lot more trust in Arch. Again, nothing against Notre Dame, nothing against Marcus Freeman. I just feel like for Texas, and this is a year where they can certainly, absolutely win, and be a threat here to win the whole entire thing. Now, will they win the entire thing? Well, you'll see here in a minute. I'll explain here in a minute, because obviously if you're on YouTube, I don't have them winning a national title, but on Spotify, obviously you can't see this. So I have Texas beating Notre Dame. I just feel like they're the more talented team, and I think when it really comes down to the quarterbacks here and who would you trust more in a game-winning situation, I'll trust Arch more than TJ Carr. Now, coaching staffs in general, I would probably trust Marcus Freeman a little bit more, but kind of feels like Freeman and Sark, they're both kind of similar, if you will. They both had, they both have a lot of upside, but they also have a lot of downsides. Like, for example, Marcus in his first couple of years losing to like Stanford, Marshall, and Northern Illinois, not necessarily a good resume, but that same year they lose to NIU, they make it to the national title. So it's the good and the bads here. And then the other second round game, Indiana and Oregon. I have Oregon getting revenge on Indiana. Like I said before, and like I said again, I am not a hater of Coach Sig. I'm not. It's just the thing is, and I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. This Indiana team, what this team is, it is not last year's team. So I feel like and then yes, a lot of folks will, a lot of the people who signed up yesterday for Indiana are going to be like, oh, this team they're better than last year. Well, that might be true on the talent, but when it comes to having that star playing the difference maker at quarterback, you lose Fernando. Okay, he's off to the NFL playing for the Raiders. Now you're bringing in Josh Hoover. I'm not a hater of Josh Hoover. He's a competent quarterback. Well, I'm just saying that drop off there is really going to matter. And I don't know if I really trust him or not. Trust him in big game, especially against a team like Oregon that is superiorly talented than you are. Again, I'm not dissing on Indiana. And again, to all the weirdos out there who are the fans who signed up yesterday, you can politely go fuck yourselves. I don't care what you think of me. I know a lot of you guys really were bashing me after the whole entire preseason poll that I put out a couple weeks ago, and whatever. Like I said, buy the ticket, take the ride. So Indiana have you losing to Oregon in the second round, and like I mentioned, I have Notre Dame losing to Texas, and I have Ohio State losing to Miami, and have Georgia beating Alabama. So the Final Four, again, for those on Spotify, if you're not keeping track, the Final Four is Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Miami. I have Georgia beating Miami. I feel like the Kirby Smart, ton of experience here. I feel like this would be a interesting coaching matchup here, a classic game too. Like I would imagine this would be a low scoring game. I don't think this would be a very high scoring game at all. Definitely a throwback to probably the early 2010s, late 2000s, probably of that style of football with Mario and Kirby Smart, both by the way Nick Saban assistants. So little interesting storyline there. And the same thing with Texas and Oregon. In fact, all these teams, all that this entire Final Four is entirely made out of coaches who used to work for Nick Saban. Was that a coincidence? Not really, but that's kind of what the sport's kind of divulging into a little bit, if you will. Like 90% of this playoff field is basically all former Nick Saban assistants, which is insane to me. So I do have, again, Georgia, Miami, and then Oregon and Texas. I have Oregon beating Texas because, again, the trust factor here. Who do you trust more? With Sark and Texas or Oregon and Dan Lanning, I would probably trust Oregon a little bit more. I almost debated on picking Texas here, but again, the trust factor, and that's something that people like Bud Elliott over on Cover 3 and 247 Sports have mentioned. That trust factor, I would definitely trust Dan Lanning over Sark, even though yes, they have better quarterback probably in Arch Manning, and I think that's the difference maker in the Notre Dame game to sort of overcome for the deficiencies at times that Sark has. I don't think that's going to save you against versus Oregon. If you're fucking around and you're screwing around towards the end of the game, same thing with Mario Cristobal. Again, the trust factor here. Do I trust Mario to get over the hump and to go against a way more experienced head coach than himself, especially one who has multiple national titles? I don't think so. So I have UGA versus Oregon. Ironically, this is the exact same team that, well, not literally the exact same team, but the same program that Dan Lanning began his coaching career as a head coach. It didn't go so well the last time, but as you can tell by the graphic on YouTube, it does go well this time for Dan Lanning. I have him beating his his master, Kirby Smart, for the national title. I have Oregon winning the national title, their first ever national title in program history. So congratulations early on to Dan Lanning and Dante Moore and the entire coaching staff there in the roster, and Huddles the Duck, my favorite mascot there. Absolutely think he's a legend. Have you guys win the national titles? So, I would totally see this. I could totally see Dan Lanning being over the moon about this pick here. Probably not. I'm sure he's probably not happy about this. I'm sure he would much rather me pick them to probably go 5-7 or something like that. I'm sure he would much enjoy that instead of us, giving him a cold stone massage and picking him to go to the national title. But that's my picks there. I have Oregon winning the national title over Georgia. Again, the Final Four here, Georgia, Miami, and one semifinal, the other semifinal, Oregon, Texas. I have UGA and Oregon advancing in both of those games to the national title. I have Oregon winning the national title. And that's it. We cannot change this at all. And same thing any of these picks are doing. We cannot change any of these picks. So this is what it is. If we get this wrong, then, well, like I've been saying before, kind of my new little saying here, buy the ticket, take the ride. So I'm definitely taking the ride, and I definitely bought the ticket. So there we go. College football playoff picks 2026. Definitely when I get most of those wrong, I definitely will get most of these right, if you know what I mean. So moving right along, before we get into our NC State UVA segment here, again, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Okay, we do this show twice a week, college football all year round. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the streams, like the videos. Be sure to follow on the Extra Pod on Spotify. Well, the podcast feed on Spotify. That's where you can get the Extra Pod. That's where you cover everything beyond college football, like any other fandoms I'm a part of. That's where we're going to cover it over there. So like Marvel news, Star Wars news, that's over there for those of you who want to venture into that. If you don't have to, if you didn't want to, but, is what it is. Now, again, might be doing one tomorrow. We'll see. It's not a guarantee. I will say, and I'll bring this up probably next week on the show next Tuesday, that, and by the way, little housekeeping note here. I forgot to mention this earlier. We might be only doing one show next week. I think there's something going on Thursday. I really can't say anything publicly about it yet that I'm doing on Thursday that may prevent us from doing a show. That's all I'm saying. So tentatively, we're going to do a show on Tuesday. I'm not sure about the rest here. It's not a guarantee we'll do something Wednesday. It's not a guarantee we'll do something on Friday either. I don't think that's going to work. And this happened last year too when we had one show last week or the week of week one. So just let you guys know. So if you're new here, more than likely we're only going to do one show, which means we're going to be combining both the picks for the week one games and also including the upset alerts, which typically do those on Thursdays. But again, because of the schedule and the way things usually work on this time of the year, because it is Labor Day and, it's us doing a show or even a reaction show too, it's just not doable around this time of the year. So Yeah, so we would be doing one big week one extravaganza, spectacular, whatever you want to call it. And maybe not that, it's not Halloween yet. But basically, what I'm trying to say here is that we're doing one show next week only. Now, that's as far as I know. So, would have done one Thursday, but again, because of scheduling issues, we're not doing that, unfortunately. So, only one show next week. It'll be a big show. Definitely going to be over an hour long. So, just be ready for that. We're going to have a huge show. Again, picking the games, upset alerts, all the things there. So be sure to be aware of that. We're gonna, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think that might be one of our best produced shows. It's basically our Super Bowl, right? It's literally the biggest show of the year for us. So at least historically, both in terms of length, how long a show goes for, and also in terms of the production value goes up a little bit more, predictions and stuff, just a whole lot of things. And also, I think our viewership numbers are the highest too, I believe. So anyway, wanted to get it out of the way. I forgot to mention earlier that yes, we were going to have one show, but that's again, if you're a returning viewer here, been watching the show for a while, we typically only do one show week one, which kind of makes sense. So anyway, again, we'll go back to the 2 shows per week the week after. So for week 2, which ironically has of course that's Texas Ohio State week, also Michigan OU week. Okay. We're going to do the UVA NC State segment here in just 1 second. Make some water real quick because I've been talking for about almost 30 minutes already. So this will probably be a long show. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'll be right back. So let me go ahead and get some water, hydrate. Okay, NC State UVA. I believe this will be the late game on ESPN. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it will be the late game on ESPN. Originally, remember, this was supposed to be in Brazil. This game was supposed to be overseas. Oh, well, and not technically overseas as in like over the Atlantic Ocean, but, go south heading towards South America. This game was originally supposed to be played there. Thankfully, it's not. Some folks came to their senses, probably, and said, this game in Brazil, we'll just move it to a college campus. Probably begrudgingly. I would guarantee you that those folks making those decisions, mainly the TV oligarchs, probably weren't over the moon about it. I would also say, and I said this before over the summer, that because of the whole energy crisis and stuff like that, and certain things happening outside of football, probably also a factor here. So that's why this game is not being played probably in South America, both for logistical reasons and also because I think some folks can, again, probably begrudgingly thought, we'll put this on a college campus. Probably not for the best intentions because I'm sure they wanted to have this game over in Brazil, but as it is fine with me. I don't care what the reason is. As long as it's on a college campus, I love it. So NC State UVA. UVA, of course, won the ACC, or they made it to the ACC championship game last year. They didn't win it because Duke won it. They returned some production. They have a new starting quarterback. If you haven't, if you didn't know, Bo Pribula, by the way, of what is it, Missouri, and I believe Penn State, I believe before that. He's over there now. They're running back depth, by the way, for Virginia, and also they're a very old team. I know there's a joke going around from Bud Elliott saying, "Oh man, everyone, like they're like today 8 years old when they found out Virginia's an old team." Well, okay, yeah, some people probably felt that way, but most of us, the hardcore people, knew that beforehand. So yes, this is a very veteran-laden team. The running back depth is insane. It's there's 3 guys that would be starters over schools, more than likely, right? You have Noah Vaughn, Xavier Brown, and Payne Lewis. Linebacker Cam Robinson going to be a huge factor here, probably. If indeed NC State's going to be a run-heavy team with C.J. Bailey, and they also have their own good running back, Jaden Scott, Keaton Jackson, wide receiver. So as you can kind of tell here, the style here, at least the way I can see it happening, is going to be a heavy emphasis on the running. Right, you have a running quarterback in C.J. Bailey. You have a running team in general, and Virginia being that, Tony Elliott, he runs that Clemson, Chad Morris style of offense, more or less not so much a throwing offense, definitely more leaning towards the run there. So the keys of the game here, of course, is going to be NC State stopping this rushing attack. Can they do that? I think they could do it. Dave Doran's not an idiot. It's a good coach. C.J. Bailey versus that Virginia defense be fascinating to watch. You can remember, C.J. Bailey could have very easily left and gone anywhere, right? Like there was rumors he was going to go to Miami. He was originally the pick there to go if Darian Mensah wasn't, opting to leave Duke. So if you don't remember that That was a huge thing. So getting him back, getting TJ Bailey back is very, very helpful for NC State. And I think that's going to be the major key there. Can either of these teams really stop each other's rushing attack? That's the key here. Whether it's NC State trying to stop Virginia's rushing attack, which, again, their running back room is pretty good for ACC standards. Again, most of those guys would likely be starters or at least major contributors on other schools around the country. And then you have TJ Bailey, dual threat guy, can run around, make a lot of wild plays. Not the best pass in the world, but it's going to be fascinating to watch here. I would imagine this game is going to be a very, very quick game. I would imagine this is going to be a game we're going to see a lot of clock running. So if you're defense here, whether if you're NC State or Virginia's defense, better have those shoelaces tied and make sure you have good awareness, because there's going to be a lot of running around, a lot of hard hitting, and things of that nature. So very fascinating game here to watch. Might be a very, very good game just to kind of chill, have a beer, sit down on the couch, and just relax and watch good old ACC football. Yes, it is not the best conference in the whole realm of the Power Four. It's obviously the weakest, but as long as it's still around, as long as the conference still exists, we still love it here. We still support the ACC. We still have all the schools there, but conference realignment. That bill's coming due soon, so may as well enjoy it while you have it. So let's pull up our game capsule, if you will, what our model thinks and what the FanDuel number is, and what our pick is. So let me go ahead and get this the graphic here. And of course, again, on Spotify, you can't see this, so I'll have to describe it to you, even though you folks on YouTube can clearly see it. But, is what it is. Got to make sure our Spotify folks are taken care of. You can't leave them in the dark, literally in the dark. They cannot see the graphics. So that's why we have to go into super detail on all these graphics we use, okay? Again, apologies here if you hear the wind here on the microphone on YouTube and also on Spotify. Maybe it's not because it's like really windy in here. Well, it's not like actual wind, it's the fan. So just ignore that. It's is what it is. So let me go ahead and pull this, make this a lot bigger for you guys here on YouTube. Okay, so the NC State UVA game capsule here. The FanDuel line, according to them, is Virginia minus 4.5. Our in-house model, the model we've been using here against a new instrument research tool we have now, thanks to, again, AI being a thing now. It's, again, a lot of folks are going to cringe at that and say, AI, like, come on, like, there's other ways you can do a model. You can have someone who's a mathematician create it for you. Well, number one, I don't have access to a mathematician, technically. And also, I don't have the time to learn any of that type of stuff because, I'm the only person that is running this show. I wear all the hats here. I'm my own director, I'm my own host, I'm my own camera guy. Like, I wear all the hats here. So, yes, we're using AI for the model. I mean, look, it's a computer either way, so does it really fucking matter? No. So, our model, the AI model here, has Virginia, same thing, Virginia minus 4.5. So, it's right in line with the FanDuel numbers. So, our pick here, based on what I can tell, it's at home for Virginia. So, on a neutral field, I'd imagine take the 3 points away. This is a Virginia minus 1.5. These teams are very much so close to each other. These are the premier teams in the ACC. That's kind of sad to say that, given the current state of Clemson and Florida State. These are two of the more premier teams in the ACC. I'm going to pick Virginia to win and slightly cover. Now, that's not saying they're going to win by like 14 plus. This will still be an entertaining game, but I think 4.5, you round up, that's 5. Add in 2 more points, 7. So, 27-20 type game there is what I'm kind of expecting here. So, Virginia wins, slight cover. I'm not saying you're going to blow them out. That would be interesting. If they did that, that would just, that would be a bit of a shocker there. But, who knows? And then again, in this college football, a lot of weird things can happen. So, yeah, I'm picking Virginia to win, slightly cover. Again, our model and the FanDuel number right in line there, exact same 4.5. So, there we go. Virginia, NC State game that I am fascinated to watch there for not opening week, but week 0. Anyway, here moving right along. Let's see here, 34 minutes in here. So I guess I can tell this story real quick here as we're wasting a little bit of time here. Slightly wasting some time. So tomorrow, like I mentioned, we'll still do at least try to do an extra pod. We'll see if I can get one out. But that's not what I was going to tell you. I mentioned this, I believe, on the Tuesday show, but I'll mention it again. The NFL team I cheer for, the Buccaneers, Tampa Bay. Of course, this is the preseason right now. They've done already 2 preseason games, 2-0, which is, it's not that important, but, I guess it's kind of a cool stat that you're undefeated, going to have a winning record in the preseason. So, and also so far, no major injuries. Yes, I saw that Ruben Bain got hurt. Todd Bowles supposedly said it's not a big deal. So, if it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. But, as they say, you typically prepare for the worst when it comes to injuries. Always assume that's not what they're actually saying. It's maybe a little bit worse. So, at least in some cases. So, generally that's a good thing that the injury is not as bad as we're thinking it's going to be. These are really, really good for Tampa, right? So they've been going for the preseason. The next preseason game they're doing is against the Jags here in Jacksonville. Again, we do this show high top from Jacksonville, Florida. So they'll be here tomorrow, and I'll be at the game. I will be there at Everbank Stadium, a construction-laden Everbank Stadium. I was there last year for, even begrudgingly, the Jags Chargers game, which ended up being a splattering. It was not a very competitive game. How about that? Liam Cohen and the Jim Harbaugh, that style of defense, just absolutely abusing them, right? Tampa the year before that when Liam was there, now him at Jacksonville is just, it's like a disease, kind of follows you around a little bit. Anyway, so yes, I'll be at the game tomorrow. I'll be in attendance there again at a construction-laden Everbank Stadium. The whole upper deck's closed off, so literally there's like the middle section and the lower parts are like the only places fans can go to. So, yeah, I haven't been there since last year, and last year was the last time you'll see Everbank Stadium normally, as it was prior to this year. So, it'll be interesting to see how it looks like. Fascinated to see how this is going to look like. I've been to several NFL games. Of course, I went to the game last year with the Jags last year, which again was a splattering. Went to another Chargers game against the Panthers a couple years ago. That was kind of a low-scoring, boring game. At least boring in terms of not a high-scoring game, but still fun, right? Get the experience. But my overall best experience may sound biased here, but I was going to Tampa, going to Raymond James Stadium there. Buccaneers winning. Mike Evans, formerly of Tampa, now with the 49ers. Getting that the final drive of the game, them throwing the ball to him getting that what was it at the time 10 years straight of 1,000 yards, tying Jerry Rice's record. So yeah, fun memories there. So yeah, I'll be in attendance tomorrow. I'll watch it. We'll cover that on the show Tuesday, maybe if we have time. I'm not totally convinced if we'll do that, but we'll see if we have time. Probably towards the very end of the show. So yeah, and that's what I'm doing tomorrow. So if you see anything on the socials and whatnot, if you're wondering, why you had a Jags game? Well, it's because the Bucs are here. So that's where I'll be tomorrow. If you're wondering what you're going to see on the socials tomorrow, if I remember to post anything about that. So yeah, preseason game tomorrow here in Jacksonville, not far from where I live. Actually, it's only like 10 minutes away from the apartment/studio here in Jacksonville. So anyway, moving right along here, we have week 0 added thoughts here. So TCU UNC again. We picked the game the other day. I picked TCU to win. I picked them to cover. I just have no real massive faith in UNC. Yes, they did a lot of good things to upgrade. Right, upgraded at quarterback. I think of Billy Edwards. You upgraded across the roster again. 70+ new players. Upgraded at offensive coordinator. But again, unfortunately, the schedule is a lot harder than it was last year. And yes, this is not an ACC game, but it's a good barometer because TCU, yes, they have a new starting quarterback, a new offensive coordinator. Supposedly veering away from the Sonny Dykes air raid stuff, which we'll see how it works. I'm not over the moon about it, but I still think TCU, in terms of the coaching wise and the trust here, if you were to choose between Sonny Dykes and Bill Belichick and the college realm, yes, you would go Bill Belichick. You would not take Bill Belichick at all versus any head coach that is has any decent history, right? And Sonny Dykes has a pretty reasonable track record, I would say. I mean, making to a national title in his first year at Texas Christian. That's that's something pretty good. So that one there again, it's in Ireland, like I mentioned on Tuesday's show. I don't get it. Look, nothing against Ireland here. I've never been there before, but beautiful place. I hear get us over there. A little thing here. Little side note. Speaking of this game, we have a not grocery store. It's a convenience store, a gas station that's really right near my apartment. It's really like think this way if I'm pointing here, that direction. Um, and that's where usually why I go to get my beer for the weekends, right? When I'm, taking the weekend, you know, off a little bit to relax, have some drinks and whatnot. So that's typically where I go to get my beer if I, especially, even during the football season, of course, obviously. So I was over there last weekend, and I noticed they had Guinness there on the tall boys. If you're anyone over 21 or of college age, you know what I'm talking about. The tall boys, and they have all of they're basically just large cans, right? You probably seen, like, for example, if you go to an NFL game, you know what I'm talking about. It's the beer cans you get when you go to a game. So they sell those at this gas station. Every convenience store sells these too. But the good thing with this gas station is that they have, this is a deal where it's 2 for $5, right? So, that's way better than paying $14 or so at you go to an NFL game for the same type of, beer can, right? But anyway, I went over there last week you usually get like a 6-pack of something, and, over, the 2 days and whatnot. And so I went over there and I was looking around. I noticed they have Guinness, and they never have Guinness there at all. The only place you can get Guinness here, at least the places I've been to, is either at a restaurant, a bar there, a restaurant and a bar, or just like a bar in general, or at Total Wine. Or I guess if you don't go to Total Wine, like ABC Beverages, but anyway, they were selling Guinness there in the tall boy. So I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be amazing if they hadn't sold out yet and it's still there? They still have at least 2 of them over there. I guarantee you I'm drinking those on Saturday. In honor of this game, I will do that. I don't necessarily have a Guinness pint glass. I have actual beer glasses that we use sometimes. So I'll probably, just using those or drinking them straight from the can. Doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah. So I'll be, as the Guinness is flowing over there in Ireland, it'll be flowing over here, hypothetically, if they still have them, which I will be checking tomorrow, actually, on that. But anyway, side note aside, that game, of course, taking place where I picked that game. There's 2 other games I wanted to mention here real quick. So USC, San Jose, this is the only team that's being ranked here, that was ranked in the preseason, that is playing on Saturday. I mean, is what it is in terms of the point spread and all that stuff. I know a lot of folks will dwindle over that. I do expect this to be kind of simple, pretty much going back to basics here. I'm not really expecting Lincoln Riley to go crazy with different play calls and stuff, or even like Jay Mayava, like running around and stuff. I'm sure this will be very vanilla, very basic. Will it look sluggish at times? It's not going to look perfect. But do I expect any threat of an upset here? I don't think so, no. I would be overly surprised and pretty disappointed if that happened. And I guarantee we will definitely go live for that in the evening Saturday for sure. That'll definitely be something that we will talk about. Probably be a leading story. So that one I'm not, too concerned about in terms of, the upset potential. I'll still look into it. I'll pop in and watch it and whatnot. Because obviously it's a game that featuring a ranked team and a team that I'm heavily invested in that could potentially be, a team that is worth watching in terms of a potential playoff push. And, obviously it's a big year for Lincoln Riley. So that one don't watch a whole lot, but, an interesting game to kind of see what the team looks like against actual competition versus themselves entering practice. Now, the next game here, the final one, this is a bit later. This is on, I believe, Fox, I believe. UNLV and Memphis. Go back to earlier when we mentioned when we did our playoff picks, I had UNLV going to the college football playoffs. I kind of want UNLV to win this game because I have them going to the CFP as the 12th seed. They're playing Memphis. They all have a really good team. You have new coaching staff there, like imported from Southern Miss. The whole, kind of an Iowa State type situation, but at the G5 level. So, yeah, this one, going to be fun. Probably likely to be a high-scoring game. Definitely going to be one of those games where, it's late at night, you're worn out, you're tired, last call for drinks and whatnot. This would be one of those games where I'd say you watch. Just sit back, relax, and maybe you fall asleep, and then it's, wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and go, this game's in double overtime. What the hell happened? So you have to go look through your app and stuff, and you look at the scoring and whatnot, whatever sports app you use for tracking that stuff. So yeah, USC San Jose State, UNLV Memphis, other games here that I'll be watching, but don't think they'll get like the main treatment, but I'll pop in. I'll just say definitely we'll watch more or less all of UNLV Memphis. USC San Jose State, not like the most overly appealing game, but it is college football. We waited 8 months for this, so like I have been saying before, buy the ticket, take the ride. So that's probably it, I think. Like I mentioned, we'll be going live on Sunday, or well, might be very early Sunday morning because it'll be midnight on the East Coast when I do it. Yeah, probably will have a few drinks by then, so who knows? I'll be a little tipsy probably on the stream and whatnot. Done it before, so I can do it again. So, yeah, we'll do a reaction there. We'll talk about the games. We'll either that or we'll do it a individual videos for everyone. I haven't really decided yet. Probably leaning towards a stream, but we'll see. Just stay tuned to the YouTube channel and the socials there for any updates on that. On terms of what we're going to do there. I'll see what the division. We'll make a decision by Saturday morning, more than likely. So that's it for the show. Less than 50 minutes, 45. That's a good clip there. I will guarantee you that the next time you see me for the normal show, this will not Tuesday's show will not be 45 minutes. That thing's going to be huge. It is not going to be a small show. It is going to be our week 1 extravaganza, and I'm so excited. So excited. Again, only one show next week, much like how it's been previously, at least in previous years. Again, I thought about, small chance we could have done a show on Thursday, but again, just the schedule lining up, it wasn't going to happen, unfortunately. Which is, is what it is. We did that last year, so nothing new. So again, until next week, I'll probably see you guys on Saturday night. So again, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy there's some games tomorrow night, and I think tonight as well. Again, mainly FCS level, but is what it is. But enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy the game Saturday. We'll see you guys definitely next week. More than likely, yes, on Saturday night. Into early Sunday morning, we'll do either a stream or videos reacting to the games if there's any big breaking news or anything like that. So until then, take care, and we'll see you guys on the next